The Galactic Council met inside a golden hall that floated around a dying red star. The hall was brighter than 10 suns and filled with voices from hundreds of alien species. Every race in the galaxy had sent their leaders here. Tall ones, short ones, ones that shimmered like glass or breathed clouds of fire, and they were all laughing. On the center platform stood a thin, nervous alien ambassador. His hands shook as he held a glowing tablet. His voice trembled. "Council members, the planet called Earth has refused your demand. They say they will not surrender their resources. They said, and I quote, 'We belong to no one.'" The laughter grew louder. A fat alien from the Varn Dominion banged the table with his claws. "They belong to no one?" He laughed. "They cannot even reach the nearest star. Their ships are toys. Their weapons Stone Age. Primitive humans," another alien sneered. "They still breathe oxygen like children." The hall burst into laughter again. Even the great chancellor of the council smiled, his metallic teeth gleaming. "Perhaps we should keep them as pets," he said. "They seem amusing enough." The sound of laughter echoed across the hall, bouncing from wall to wall like thunder. But one alien did not laugh. At the edge of the chamber sat Admiral Karen of the Zellari. His eyes were narrow, his face unreadable. He had fought many wars, and he had seen something few others had. Humans in battle. He leaned toward the Chancellor and spoke softly. "You shouldn't laugh. They fought off the Drakons, alone." The Chancellor waved his hand. "Old stories. Exaggerations. The Drakons were already weak." Karen said nothing more, but a cold feeling spread through his chest. He remembered the last message his fleet had received from the Drakon Empire before it vanished. Humanity cannot be conquered. Before he could speak again, the room filled with a strange sound, a soft beep from the ambassador's tablet. The screen flickered, and every communication crystal across the hall began to glow. A message was coming through. The ambassador gasped. "It's from Earth." All laughter stopped. The Chancellor rose from his seat. "Play it." The lights dimmed and a hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It was not a person, only a black background and white letters forming slowly in the air. "Message received. Prepare for a demonstration," that was all. The words faded and silence filled the golden hall. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the lights flickered again. For a moment, every screen in the chamber showed a blue planet, Earth, turning slowly in the dark. Then the image vanished. "What kind of demonstration?" Someone whispered. No one answered. The Chancellor forced a laugh. "A bluff. Empty words. What can they demonstrate? Throwing rocks?" But even his voice trembled slightly. Hours later, on the edge of the galaxy, strange things began to happen. In the Velkar system, 3 warships belonging to the Council vanished from radar. No explosion, no signal. One moment they were there. The next, they were gone. In another system, communication satellites began to fail one by one, as if something invisible was swallowing them. By the end of the day, 10 colonies had lost contact with the Council. Inside the Golden Hall, panic began to spread. Ambassadors shouted at each other, accusing enemies of sabotage. The Chancellor called for calm, but the fear in his eyes was clear. Admiral Karen stood silently, his claws tapping against the table. "This is their demonstration," he said. "Impossible," the Chancellor replied. "They don't have that kind of power." Karen's gaze darkened. "Then explain it. Explain why entire fleets vanish without a trace." The Council began to argue. Some said to send more ships. Others said to surrender before it was too late. The ambassador who had delivered the human message was pale now, his voice almost gone. Should we contact Earth again?" he asked. Karen nodded slowly. "Yes, ask them what they want." The message was sent. Minutes passed. Then hours. Finally, a reply came. It was the same voice as before, calm, cold human. "We asked for peace. You chose to mock us. This is only the beginning." The hall fell silent again. No one dared breathe. The Chancellor looked at Karen, his confidence finally gone. "What do they mean?" "The beginning of what?" Karen's eyes met his. "The beginning of the end, for us." Outside, beyond the Council station, the dying star pulsed once, a strange wave of light expanding across space. All sensors screamed. Ships lost power. Artificial gravity failed. The last thing anyone saw before darkness filled the hall was a line of text flashing on every screen in the galaxy. Demonstration complete. Then, nothing. For the first time in history, the mighty Galactic Council knew fear. Fear of a small blue world they had once laughed at. And somewhere on that world, under a sky full of stars, humanity prepared for what came next. The unexpected. War had begun. The galaxy was no longer laughing. After the strange message, demonstration complete. Thousands of ships had vanished across different star systems. No explosion, no wreckage, no trace. It was as if entire fleets had been erased from existence. Inside the Galactic Council's Golden Hall, silence ruled. The ambassador sat pale and afraid. No one dared to speak first. Even the mighty Chancellor, who once joked about keeping humans as pets, sat frozen in his chair. Finally, Admiral Karen broke the silence. "You wanted a demonstration," he said. "Now you've seen it." The Chancellor's voice shook. "It makes no sense. They don't have that kind of technology. Earth is barely a Type 1 civilization." Karen's yellow eyes narrowed. "Maybe they found something we didn't. Maybe humans learned how to use something older than science." Everyone stared at him. "Older than science?" the Chancellor repeated. Karen nodded slowly. "Power that does not come from machines. Power that comes from understanding the universe itself." The Chancellor slammed his hand on the table. "Nonsense. We must show strength. Gather every fleet. Crush this Earth before they think they can rule the stars." But even as he spoke, a deep alarm rang through the Council station. Red lights flashed. A voice shouted over the speakers, "Unknown contacts detected in Sector 4, then Sector 7, then Sector 12. Everywhere." Karen ran to the control table. "Show me the map." A giant holographic map appeared above them. Thousands of red dots spread across the galaxy, human signals moving fast, appearing where no ships should exist. The Chancellor's face turned pale. "Impossible. Those are restricted systems. How did they get there?" No one answered. On the far edge of the Orion Arm, a council fleet prepared for battle. Captain Relthor, a proud warrior of the Varni Empire, looked out at his armada. 300 ships, the largest in this sector. "Humans," he said to his crew. "Let them come. We'll show them what real firepower looks like." His crew cheered. Weapons charged. Shields activated. Then suddenly their sensors went dark. Every screen blinked once, then turned black. The stars outside the windows began to fade one by one until only darkness remained. "Report," Relthor shouted. No response. The crew looked around in confusion. Then in the dark void, a single human voice echoed through every ship. It was calm, emotionless, and far too close. "You were warned." The stars returned, but the fleet did not. When the Council tried to contact them, there was nothing left. No debris, no signal, not even energy traces, just silence. Back in the Golden Hall, reports flooded in from every sector. Fleets missing, colonies gone, mining stations erased. One ambassador screamed, "They are destroying us. We have to surrender." Another shouted, "They won't stop. They want the whole galaxy." The Chancellor rose again, his voice shaking. "No, we must strike back before it's too late. Launch the Armada toward Earth." Karen's voice cut through the chaos. "That's suicide. They're only one planet," the Chancellor shouted. "If we combine our forces, we can crush them." Karen stepped closer. "You don't understand. They don't need fleets. They don't fight like us." The Chancellor ignored him. Orders were given. Every military power in the galaxy united into one massive armada, the largest in history. 10,000 ships prepared to head toward the small blue planet called Earth. It took them 3 days to arrive. When the armada reached the solar system, they saw something unexpected. No defense satellites. No massive fleets. Just one quiet planet turning under a yellow sun. "Scanners show minimal activity," reported a commander. "No visible threat." The Chancellor, watching from the lead ship, laughed nervously. Perhaps they ran away. But Admiral Karen, who had joined the fleet against his will, stood by the window. His instincts screamed danger. "No," he whispered. "They're here." "They're watching." Moments later, the human signal appeared on every screen. A message blinked in simple letters. "Welcome to Earth." Then space itself began to bend. The ships started to shake violently. The stars twisted like reflections in water. Some ships disappeared. Others collided with invisible barriers. Energy readings spiked beyond known limits. Fire! The Chancellor shouted. Fire all weapons! Lasers, plasma bolts, and missiles filled the void, but they hit nothing. The weapons vanished before reaching their targets as if reality itself had swallowed them. Then a voice spoke again, echoing in every mind. Human, alien, machine. You came to destroy what you don't understand. Now you will understand what cannot be destroyed. The entire armada froze in space. Engines dead, power gone. The crews could not move, could not speak. Then one by one, the ships began to dissolve, now not explode, not burn, simply fade, like drawings erased from a page. Karen's ship was the only one left. He looked out at the stars, whispering, "Why are you?" The galaxy had gone silent. Once the stars had been full of messages, trading routes, military commands, songs of victory and conquest. Now there was only fear. Everywhere people whispered the same name. Earth entire fleets had vanished in seconds. Whole colonies erased without explosions. Even the mighty Varni Empire, proud and ruthless, was gone. Its homeworld turned into a quiet sphere of light, floating in space like a ghost, and no one knew how. The Galactic Council tried to hide the truth, but rumors spread faster than light. Some said humans had created living weapons that could eat planets. Others said they had learned to control time itself. No one could prove anything. No one dared to find out. Inside the Golden Hall, only a few council members remained. The once busy chamber now felt like a tomb. The Chancellor, once full of pride, now looked old and weak. "Report," he said quietly. A thin, gray-skinned aide stepped forward. "We've lost contact with 47 systems. Mining colonies, military outposts, communication hubs, all gone. Any survivors?" The Chancellor asked. "None," the aide said. "Only silence." The Chancellor rubbed his forehead. "And Earth? Any message from them?" "Nothing, sir. They haven't spoken since the battle in the solar system." Admiral Karen stood near the viewing window. His eyes watched the dying star outside, its light flickering like a heartbeat. "They don't need to speak," he said. "Their silence is the message." The Chancellor turned toward him. "You were with them. You saw what they can do. Tell me, Karen, what are they?" Karen hesitated. "They are still human, but they have learned something. Something our kind never will. They understand how the universe listens." "Listens," the Chancellor repeated. "To what?" "To will," Karen said softly. "To belief. They don't build weapons anymore, they become them." The Chancellor shook his head in disbelief. "That's impossible." Karen turned his gaze toward him. "So was erasing 10,000 ships without firing a shot." The Chancellor said nothing more. Far from the Council's world, on a small moon in the Zareth system, a group of smugglers watched the stars nervously. They had heard the stories but didn't believe them, until they saw it themselves. The night sky above the moon began to ripple, like waves on water. One of the smugglers pointed upward. "What is that?" A glowing shape appeared, not a ship, not a weapon, but something vast and white, like a curtain of light falling from the stars. The smuggler's equipment shut down instantly. The air turned still, and then without sound or flame, the entire moon vanished. In the space where it had been, only a single word glowed in human letters: peace. When the Council received the report, they realized the humans were not destroying everything, only what resisted. Within weeks, chaos spread. Empires that once ruled proudly now begged for protection. The smaller races, terrified, left their homeworlds to hide in distant corners of the galaxy. Trade stopped. Armies refused to fight. The great galactic network, the center of civilization, collapsed. And through it all, the humans said nothing. No messages, no threats, only silence. To many, that silence was worse than war. One night, Admiral Karen stood on the balcony of his quarters, looking up at the stars. He remembered the first time he met a human, years ago during the Draken War. The human captain had been calm, almost kind. When Karen asked why humans fought so hard, the captain had smiled and said, "Because we remember pain better than peace." Now Karen understood. Humanity did not fight for power. They fought to never be laughed at again. The next day, Karen was summoned to the Chancellor's private chamber. The old leader looked tired and desperate. Karen, he said, I am sending you to Earth. Karen froze. To Earth? The Chancellor nodded. We need to talk to them, make peace before everything is gone. Karen hesitated. And if they don't want peace? The Chancellor's voice broke. Then we beg. Karen's ship left the next day, crossing the empty void toward the solar system. Along the way, he passed the ruins of silent worlds, floating stones where civilizations once lived. The journey took weeks. Every day, his crew grew more afraid. Some refused to sleep. Some whispered prayers. Finally, they reached the edge of the solar system. There was no human fleet, no warning satellites, only the familiar blue planet, shining calmly in the darkness. Approach carefully, Karen ordered. As they neared Earth's orbit, strange signals began to fill the ship, whispers, not words, in hundreds of languages at once. Then suddenly, the ship stopped moving. Engines are offline, the pilot shouted. A soft light surrounded the ship. Then a voice, gentle, human, but powerful, filled the air. You came uninvited, but not unwelcome. Karen stood slowly. This is Admiral Karen of the Galactic Council. We come to speak. We know, the voice replied. Follow the light. Before anyone could react, the ship began to move, not by engines, but by something unseen, pulling them closer to Earth's moon. There, hidden behind the gray rocks, was a station, smooth, white, and silent. It looked nothing like any alien technology Karen had ever seen. His ship landed softly. When the doors opened, a group of humans stood waiting. They wore no armor, no weapons, just calm expressions. One of them, a tall woman with gray eyes, stepped forward. Welcome, she said. We've been expecting you. Karen bowed his head slightly. I come with a message from the council. The woman nodded. And we come with an answer. Far away in the Golden Hall, the Chancellor waited. Hours passed, then days. No word came from Karen. Finally, a new signal appeared on the Council's network, from the moon of Earth itself. It contained only 3 words. They are listening. That night, the galaxy did not sleep. Every leader, every soldier, every being with a mind looked toward the blue planet and wondered, if humans were listening, what would they do next? The human woman led Admiral Karen and his team through long, bright corridors. The walls of the lunar station glowed softly like living light. There were no machines, no guards, and no visible weapons. Yet Karen could feel an unseen energy in the air, calm but powerful, like a storm waiting behind glass. Every step echoed quietly. The silence was so deep that even the hum of his translator felt loud. Finally, the woman stopped before a large circular door. It opened soundlessly, revealing a room filled with stars, not windows but projections floating in midair. The whole galaxy shimmered around them, real and alive. Karen stared in disbelief. How are you showing this? He asked. There are no devices, the woman smiled. There are no devices because we don't need them. She turned, and for the first time, Karen saw the symbol on her suit, a small white circle around a blue dot. The Earth emblem, he whispered. Yes, she said softly. It reminds us who we are and where we came from. They sat around a simple glass table that reflected the stars. Karen noticed that the humans didn't move like other beings. Their gestures were slow and exact, their eyes calm, as if they already knew what he would say before he said it. He cleared his throat. I come from the Galactic Council. They wish to understand what you are. The woman looked at him gently. You mean what we have become? Karen nodded. You have destroyed fleets, erased worlds, changed stars. You call it balance. But what does that mean? How can you do this? The woman looked at the stars above them. Admiral, you think in terms of weapons and war. But humanity moved beyond that long ago. Karen frowned. Beyond weapons? Then how did you fight us? She smiled faintly. By not fighting, he didn't understand, she continued, her voice calm. You believe reality is fixed. Matter, energy, time. But all of it listens to thought. It responds to will. Humans learned that the mind is not trapped inside the body. The universe is not a machine. It's a song. And when you learn the melody, you can change it. Karen's eyes widened. You mean, you control reality? She nodded slowly. We don't control it. We understand it. The universe is not against us. It was only waiting for someone to listen. Karen stepped back. That's impossible. The woman raised her hand. The room changed. Suddenly Karen was standing in space. The moon, the earth, the stars, all around him. He gasped, clutching at his chest. "Don't be afraid," her voice said beside him. "This is not illusion. It's the truth beneath the surface. What your eyes never learned to see." He looked around, eyes wide. "You can make me see anything?" She smiled. "We can make you see what already exists." The scene shifted again. He saw the Council's fleets, the countless ships that had vanished. But they weren't destroyed. They were frozen, caught in some kind of timeless field, light still reflecting off their hulls, unmoving. "They're alive." He whispered. "Yes," she said. "No one has died. We never killed. We simply stopped their motion in space and time. Until they learn." Karen turned to her. "Learn what?" "To listen," she said softly. "To respect, to live without taking from others." He stared at the frozen ships. "You could end every empire in the galaxy." "We could," she agreed. "But we don't want to. Power means nothing if it destroys what makes you human." They returned to the room. Karen felt small now, not afraid, but humbled. The woman looked at him kindly. "We didn't become gods, Admiral. We only grew up." He swallowed hard. "The Council won't understand. They'll call this a threat." Her expression darkened slightly. "Then we'll keep teaching until they do." Karen's voice shook. "You think you can teach the whole galaxy?" She smiled again. "We don't need to. We only need one who listens." Karen blinked. "Me?" "Yes," she said. "You are the only—" The Golden Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Every seat was filled, leaders, commanders, and envoys from every known world. The air was heavy with fear and pride, mixed together like poison. Admiral Karen stood alone in the center, his scales dull under the bright light. He had returned from Earth 2 days ago, and since then the Council had been waiting for his report. Now the Chancellor leaned forward, his metallic eyes narrow. "Admiral," he said slowly, "you have spoken with the humans. You have seen what they are. Tell us, and can they be defeated?" Karen did not answer right away. He looked around at the faces staring down at him, faces that had once mocked, laughed, and called humans primitive. Finally, he said quietly, "No." A wave of whispers filled the hall. The Chancellor's hand struck the table. "Impossible. There is no power that cannot be broken." Karen's voice rose, calm but firm. "You don't understand. They are not fighting us anymore. They don't use weapons or ships. They don't need to. They can touch the fabric of space and rewrite it." The council chamber grew louder. Some shouted that he was lying. Others shouted that Earth must be destroyed before it was too late. Karen's voice cut through the noise. "They could have destroyed you already. But they didn't. They spared us." The Chancellor stood. "Spared? You call the loss of entire fleets mercy?" Karen turned to face him. "Yes, because those fleets are not gone. They are frozen, trapped in time. The humans can return them if they wish." The room fell silent. The Chancellor's face twisted in disbelief. "You expect me to believe this? Fantasy?" Karen nodded. "Believe what you want. But I saw it. I stood inside their light. I saw their world, calm, peaceful, unguarded. They have nothing to fear from us, yet they still offer peace." The council members looked at each other nervously. One alien, a pale creature from the core dominion, stood and hissed, "They are playing with us. This is not peace. It is control." Another shouted, "We must show strength. If we surrender, every empire will fall." Karen slammed his fist on the table. "Your empires have already fallen. You just don't see it yet." The words echoed through the chamber. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the Chancellor said coldly, "Arrest him." 2 guards stepped forward. But before they could move, the lights in the hall flickered. A deep, soft hum filled the air. Every communication crystal in the room began to glow with a white light. The council froze. A voice spoke, calm, human, and everywhere at once. "We asked for peace. You chose to mock us. We offered mercy. You chose fear. Now you will choose again." The Chancellor shouted, "Who dares speak in my hall?" The voice ignored him. "This is the final message. The Council's judgment is upon itself." The floor trembled. The walls turned transparent. Through them, the stars outside began to shift. The entire station was being moved, across space at impossible speed. "Where are they taking us?" A counselor screamed. Karen stood still, eyes wide. "They are showing you," he whispered. The golden hall stopped moving. Outside, they saw hundreds of ships. The lost fleets, frozen in light, scattered across the void like statues. The human voice spoke again. "You see what pride has cost. Life wasted in arrogance. You have one choice left, peace or silence." The chancellor trembled with rage. "We will never kneel to earth." As soon as he spoke, his image flickered. His body began to glow faintly, and then he was gone. Not dead. Just gone. The chair where he had stood was empty. Gasps filled the hall. No one moved. No one dared to speak again. Karen fell to his knees, whispering, "You warned him." The voice returned, softer now. Peace was always an option. The golden hall slowly returned to normal. The stars outside stood still again. The lights dimmed. The remaining council members looked at each other with terror. Some cried. Some bowed their heads. Karen stood and faced them. "Now you understand. They don't need to rule you. They only want you to stop destroying everything around you." One counselor, trembling, asked, "What should we do?" Karen took a deep breath. "Accept peace. End your wars. Rebuild what's left, and if we don't," Karen looked at the empty chair of the chancellor, "then you'll vanish like him." Days later, a new message appeared across the Galactic network. Simple, direct, and written in human words. "Peace must begin today. No empire, no council, no war. Those who choose violence will be erased from time." Billions read the message. Some refused to believe it. Others obeyed immediately. Armies disbanded. Ships stopped moving. Old enemies began to talk again. Fear had done what reason never could. It united the galaxy, but not everyone agreed. In the deep reaches of space, hidden among dead stars, a small group of powerful warlords gathered in secret. "They think they can rule through fear," one of them growled. "Let's see how strong they are when we strike from the shadows." Another nodded. "We will build weapons beyond their imagination." But the lights around them flickered, and a human voice whispered through the darkness. "You still haven't learned." The warlords froze. Their ships vanished into light, leaving behind only silence. Back in the council's golden hall, Karen sat alone, staring at the stars. The chancellor's chair remained empty, untouched. He whispered to himself, "You could have saved yourself if only you had listened." A soft glow filled the room. The human woman's voice echoed gently. "It's not too late, Admiral. A new order will rise, one built on respect." Karen nodded slowly. "Will humans rule it?" "No," she said. "We will guide it, until everyone learns." The light faded. Karen looked out into the quiet galaxy. Once full of war, now held in uneasy peace. For the first time in 1,000 years, there was hope. But deep inside, one question still haunted him. If humans could erase empires with a thought, what would happen the day they decided to judge themselves? The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. For the first time in 10,000 years, no warships crossed the stars. No fleets battled for territory. The Galactic Council's golden hall stood still, floating around a new star, one chosen by Earth. A new symbol hung above the council, a silver ring, crossed by a blue circle. It was not the mark of one world, but of unity. A promise that all species would live under the same law. That law had only 3 words: respect all life. Admiral Karen stood at the great window, looking out at the endless light of the new sun. His reflection stared back, an older, quieter. The scales on his face had turned pale from stress, but his eyes still held the same spark. Behind him, footsteps echoed. A human woman entered, calm, confident, and wearing a uniform of deep blue. Her name was Ambassador Lena Voss, the first human to ever lead the Galactic Council. She smiled softly. "You look tired, Admiral." Karen nodded. "I've seen too much silence lately, it feels unnatural." Lena walked beside him, looking out the same window. "Silence is what we all fought for." "But yes," she admitted, "it does feel strange." They stood together for a while, watching the stars. Hundreds of worlds were slowly rebuilding, repairing what arrogance and pride had destroyed. Human envoys traveled between systems, teaching peace, building cities, healing worlds poisoned by centuries of war. For the first time, the galaxy was working together, but under that peace, Karen felt something else, a hum, faint but growing. It was like the air before a storm. He turned to Lena. Do your people feel it too? This unease? Lena's eyes darkened. Yes, some of us do. Far away in the outer edge of the Orion Arm, strange things began to happen. Stars blinked out for seconds at a time. Entire communication relays shut down, then came back online with new data that no one had sent. And when scientists decoded the data, they found one repeating line, written in perfect human script. You are not the only ones who remember. The council panicked. Reports flooded in from dozens of systems. Someone or something was mimicking human energy signatures, but humans denied involvement. Karen attended the emergency meeting. The hall was filled again, every delegate tense and afraid. Lena stood in the center. Her voice was calm. We are investigating, but this is not Earth's doing. A voice from the shadows shouted, lies. You control time, space, matter. Now you control ghosts. Karen silenced the room. Let her speak. Lena continued. We discovered the source. It's coming from the ruins of the old Dracon Empire, the same world humanity once fought to protect. The word Dracon made everyone fall silent. The Drakons had been the most feared warriors in the galaxy before they vanished centuries ago. Karen's tail twitched nervously. You mean they survived? Lena looked down. Not exactly. They were frozen, the same way the humans froze the fleets. Someone has awakened them. The hall erupted in noise. Accusations flew. Fear spread again like fire. But Lena raised her hand. We can't fight them the old way. If we use force, everything will burn again. Karen stepped forward. Then what is your plan? She looked up at the stars and whispered, We go ourselves. Days later, a single ship left Earth orbit, sleek silver and powered by energy that seemed alive. It carried only two beings, Lena and Karen. They traveled in silence past sleeping worlds and the shattered remains of ancient wars. At last they reached the Draken world, a dead planet covered in ash and broken steel. As they landed, the ground trembled. From the dust, dark figures rose. The Drakons awakened after centuries. They were not monsters. They were soldiers, and they looked confused, lost. Lena stepped forward, unarmed. We don't come to fight, she said softly. We come to understand. One of the Drakon,